the island. And they got taken down for it, caught off guard, trying to go after Shmeki and Gabix. Ali and El Tinzi is going to be the ones hovering over, trying to collect as much of that hide as possible. But you can see on the minimap, there's so many teams positioned, Mustache and Tayson included. But they're separated in such an angle to where it's going to be hard for anybody to try to backtrack and push back. Unless, of course, Mustache, as I say that, trying to give up the position, rotate to a much better spot with the kinetic blade. Just because they're rotating doesn't mean anybody else has to rotate on over. Which allows them to kind of finish what they started. That was the fight right off the drop. Shmeki's landing a good shot, but a two different 1-2 punch combo coming from two different directions from the Totem Boys, leaving Gabix by himself.
The Totem Boys had a couple of eliminations last game, and we're seeing why, right? These guys are sharp when it comes to these sort of fights, and Gabix is just going to have to patiently wait to try and rebuttal and try and get some form of revenge for Shmeki. It's not going to be easy the way they're moving. They do leave him space to get a shot in, but will he be able to hit many more onto them? He's looking for an exit plan, it seems, looking to see where he can drop down, get out. Maybe even looking for some sort of loot, maybe that was dropped somewhere.
I think his best case scenario right now, how quick he was able to really react, get out, disengage, continue to rotate on over, but his opponents do have the kinetic blades. You can already see that they're trying to cut him off. You don't want to give up that escape route. And I think they're only going to spend a certain amount of time looking for him before they have to continue on. Oh, wow. Why is he not building to protect himself? Nako's in such a bad spot there. Dan going to be left as a solo. Amos and Killian. Okay, you know, you're teaching me. You're my support. You're holding the piano so I can play it a little bit.
I am the one that holds the piano for the artists like yourself to play.
It's the name of the game. That's support. That's the relationship we built over the last couple seasons. Don't worry, I'll hold the piano for you one day. Maybe a harp. Are you a harp kind of guy?
Anything that makes sound works for me. Dexy over at the vault. We saw them try and claim this last game but get taken out. This time around, though, they will be the ones to loot it all up. You can see making sure they get everything out of it they possibly can. All that gold will go to good use, I'm sure. But I think the more important part is those shotguns that they have in hand now. The potentials for solo clutches of those are ridiculous.
One shot after one shot, even with the nerf, 210 is still more than enough damage. Just kind of, honestly, makes some game-saving plays. And honestly, even though we haven't seen a lot of the cups on an official stream before, the plays that I've been able to see these players make, backs up against the wall, low HP, with that Mythic Havoc pump, they turn, they burn. All it takes is one well-played shot to keep yourself alive and in the game. It's like Hero and Flodax. For them, they're going to have to think about something else instead of that one-shot potential.
Yeah, currently based up here looking for Surge. Hoping that players will sort of rotate through and be within their line of sight to be able to take some tags onto. Oh, dearie me. What do we have here? Jalen's gone down. Tweet is left as a solo, and that's not good. Miniminer said he wanted to see these guys win the game.
At least he didn't give him the Miniminer guarantee just yet, so.
Never heard of that.
It's only going to be a wish. You don't know the Miniminer guarantee?
Nah. Sounds like a knockoff of somebody else's.
11 2K guarantee?
I've heard of that one.
That one's premium. But everybody wants to wonder, what does an FNCS champion do to stay at the top of their game? Well, we have a World Cup qualifier in Vivid to break it all down.
Too kind, Jacob. Yes, of course, those FNCS winning strategies coming out of Tayson and Mersash. As you can see, Tayson off to the side, getting those long-range shots. Mersash was actually very, very close to that engagement. Of course, the ODM gear allowing him to get very, very close. This duo coming up with a strategy to push north of their POI, get some early Storm Surge tags in, and set themselves up for the rest of the game.
Well said by Vivid, making sure that he goes to show that even though we saw them very, very early on in the game begin to get aggressive towards that north side of the map, it was just to get Storm Surge before they back on out, but quickly Mr. Savage and Vidil make short work of their opponent. And this is the type of potential I was talking to you about in that last game. Vidio, one of the most aggressive players. Mr. Savage, one of the smarter players in the game. You combine those forces, man, you have an unbeatable team. Or at least I'd like to think so.
Really nice shots here from Vidio. And you're right, Vidio, one of the better fighters we've seen that hit big shots there. It's like you can't miss. And another one, the one we saw to close it out onto Slove. These guys are a very fun team to watch with very high potential. I think if there's ever been a team in recent chapters that Mr. Savage has been on that had potential to win things and to really be a dark horse, you'd probably say it's this one.
I think you gotta watch out though for is with those ODM gears, unlike the grapple gloves of the past where you can just use them as mobility to get from point A to point B, you have to watch out from anybody swinging around you because they can go ahead and use those melee attacks, break the builds. If their duo is there, they can either replace them, try to box you up, or just land some perfect shots. We witnessed that just moments ago. So if anybody sees anybody swinging around them nearby, that thought in the back of your mind and have at least some sort of trick underneath your sleeve just in case that becomes a possibility.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely see a lot of teams use them. Like the grapple gloves of the past, it's definitely possible to do so.
The duo. Trexer just rotating. Not too many teams nearby except for the ones that are primarily on the high ground. Those are the ones that are going to really cause a little bit of that destruction as Vino just making sure to get every scrap of loot out of the Kenjutsu crossing that he can find.
Yeah, and where will this next one pull for them? It pulls right in their alley.
This is so good for them.
Very good for them. There are a bunch of teams towards the west that they can sort of take some shots at. You can see Vino's building out ramps here. And he has vision of all that side of the zone. And any of the teams that now have to rotate in towards this side are at the mercy of Vino and his legendary AR.
Look how quick, though, on the minimap. Look how quick they were to react to these zones. As soon as it continues to pull towards the eastern portion of the map, you guys see that lone arrow on the minimap that was so just a short second ago? That was Queasy reading the zones, going towards the edge, in which he thinks and should be the most congested side of the zone. He tries to gatekeep teams out, and you're going to see him reunite with Vino shortly after. Rift Island does spawn, so this is where you're going to see a lot of teams, if they're brave enough, try to contest, go for those overclocked pulse rifles, go for some of the loot that is left behind from anybody else's teams. Razumi is going to try to get the zone. You got to imagine he's going to pop at least one of those legendary slurp juices to try to get him back up to shape.
When you see Razumi and Sinner, they're going to have to rotate in towards that side where Queasy and Vino will be holding them potentially. Juriki up here on Rift Island. They already have really good loot, and so when you add the pulse rifles to this, it's probably the perfect setup you can have. Pulse rifles, Mythic, Havoc, Slurps, ODM, and some chug splashes. Maybe some people prefer Katana over the ODM, but one of those two, and you literally have what would be considered the best possible loadout this season.
And position as well. You got the highest of the high grounds, an island in the sky that's in zone. So now imagine you combine that with maybe building on top, but talk about in zone, a lot of those rifts are at the bottom. Tend to see teams kind of box him on those. Jalen goes down again. Twee's going to be left by himself. Shots coming in from the distance, putting so much pressure on him, but Sadie goes down, leaving it kind of in a 1v1 scenario here. The third party slowly but surely trying to close in on the distance to finish off the damage they put out early on in this same fight. Twee's at least going to be able to get some loot, something that he can claim any hold on in this fight, but the third party is there, so we got a 1v1v2.
It's a shame. Tweet had to pick up Jalen earlier when he went down, picked him up, and unfortunately Jalen's gone down again, so it leaves Tweet all alone here. The chance of a reboot will be difficult, but not impossible. Synod and Razumi, though, that was the team that tried to swoop in and clean up, and it definitely caused issues for Tweet. He's quickly run away now.
Loot. Hopefully he has the reboot as well. That's almost what it looks like. He's trying to go back to one of those reboot trucks. He does have the reboot card. Trying to get his teammate back into the game. And because the loot was just on the edge of the zone, possibly go back, trying to snag some of it up as everybody else begins to rotate themselves in. Zone's going to pull towards the east. But a couple shots coming in, forcing him to use some of those heals he wanted to save for later on in the game. As Reps Guard, Hell's Fire, they got themselves a position. A deluxe apartment in the sky, some would say. Try to rain down from above as Mega City is going to be hard for some of these teams to try to push through if they're actually trying to use it as a path to rotate through.
Yeah, but the rest of this game will be very interesting for them because Reps Guard at least doesn't have a katana. He doesn't have that kinetic blade.
Grind rails it is.
And when you don't have one of those and you don't have ODM gear, it can be very difficult with so much movement in the game. When you're one of the few teams without it, it can almost feel like you're playing a different game, restricted in your ability to play the way the rest of your opponents are.
See Malabuka and Thomas in the distance as well. Hopefully for everybody here, besides a couple of players that you mentioned, have at least some form of rotation because you don't want to get stuck being one of the last teams trying to rotate outside of Mega City. You saw a little preview there, and you can see it again in the mini-map. There's so many different elevation changes, giant mountains that you have to climb through, and a lot of these teams are already going to be positioned, just like you see Eclipse and Air Trap doing right now, gatekeeping everybody out, but they still have more to go. From 28 below, 1 above, 16 below, just goes to show how active everybody else in the lobby is when it comes to Storm Surge.
Yeah, they have a really nice spot to just be able to sit here and pick away at these teams. The question is, how much have they been practicing their surge game? Because there will be opportunities here, 100% there will be, but they just have to hit the shots. Connecting with a couple tags here and there, a nice little headshot will go a long way for them as well. They need to keep doing that sort of damage. They need to keep connecting.
Yep. Keeping their eye on the prize. They got a good position in the zone as well. You kind of look, everybody just on the outskirts of Mega City.
Didn't block their backs and take some damage because of it.
Nickel Master, 129, popping his own slurp juice. Lost Monet throughout the course of this game, so he's going to be a solo with no builds, taking damage from Storm Surge. Rickley's going to have to just play defensive. He didn't really need to go ahead and fight that one, but Mickle Master's able to get that elimination, but still 160 damage below the threshold. He definitely has his work cut out for him for the rest of this game.
That might be an understatement, right?
For the next game, maybe as well.
This is going to be very tough to get back into. Malabuka Mustache here. I said Malabuka Mustache.
Gotcha.
I'm back in the past. I'm stuck in the past. Malabuka and Thomas HD here on our screens. And unfortunately, they're sort of stuck in a very congested side of the zone where it's going to be hard for them to rotate along with some of these teams. They do have the katanas, and so they need to make sure they get their timing. They are still looking for opportunities, but now the zone's moving, so don't wait for everybody else to start moving. You can see Grippe and Flixie just by their side of the zone. They're going to rotate right by them. And they just getting ahead of them as well, which is going to be nice as well in terms of continuing to move forward. About too many issues.
Yeah, for some of those teams towards Mega City, this is the best possible zone pull for them. If it just went north, if it went straight east, they'd have to climb up those mountains while teams are positioned there. But since it moved a little bit more towards the south, everybody that had that high elevation before is going to have to give it up to try to find their next spot in towards zone. But I'm not going to make it seem like it's smooth ground through and through. You still see there is different varying elevations that are still left in the zone, but it's going to allow for a lot of these players coming from Mega City at the very minimum to have more of an option of where they want to position. 62
Speaking
below,
of options, Trex is running out of them. Down on Surge, there is one option above him that they can take advantage of, and that's why he's going to continue to just look up. I also have to worry about players who can see him on the layer he's on. Kiduhodo will start to deal with their problems with that ODM gear, using that one to pick up Stompy.
Okay. That's the only real remark for that one, because he made that look so easy. Even I can do it. I'm going to go home. I'm going to load up Fortnite. It's not going to be that easy.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. I don't know about you, Jacob, but I do know that there's a good chance he can do this again and again. And that will certainly be the goal, as they need more limbs in this game, not just for Surge, but to improve on their chances of being able to play for a heal-off towards the end.
Well, the only thing they really have to worry about right now, since you already see they have multiple slurp juices, they have those overclocked pulse rifles. It's about Storm Surge and if they had it, but as I think overclocked pulse rifles, they had that Rift Island in the sky, one of the highest points on the map for quite a while because it was in zone. So you gotta imagine they have to be sitting pretty with so much flexibility. Very, very similar to Mr. Savage and Vidal. 2 eliminations, 762 above the damage threshold. And if you look at their loadout, they're ready if it does come down to another heal off.
They'll have to be ready because it probably will come down to another heal off. Vino and Queasy, they'll certainly be ready for it as well. You can see the chug splashes in the inventory, the slurp juice as well. But they aren't doing too well on their surge, and so I have to start getting ahead in that regard. Zone pulling towards Kenjutsu might have forced them a bit to play in a way that they aren't quite as comfortable with, and Queasy now struggling as a result of that. He tried to take a fight with none other than Tweet, who takes him out, and so it's now Jalen's duo who's causing issues for one of their best teams in the lobby here. I did say he was playing well, but Vino's playing better, so that will be put to an end, and Queasy will quickly be revived. There will not be a highlight reel moment for Tweet, but the game will continue there for our dominant height duo. Hydra and Forstrokia still in this one after a rocky start to the game as well, Jacob.
Hey, sometimes it's those rocky starts that allow you to see your mistakes very, very early on. Game number 1, here in game number 2. They're trying to patch it up. My only worry feeling right now is they have shields, big pops, they have minis. When it comes to the chug splashes, when it comes to the med miss, that's what I hope they're trying to figure out a plan to get those as the game does go on. Into the top 23, so cascading placement points have just begun. This is the worst possible time to go down, where you're barely getting 1, 2, maybe even 3 points for your efforts making it this far into the game.
See now, they're starting to whip out their blades as they make their move onto zone. The Totem boys will do just that, but unfortunately Altenzi on the way has been taken out completely. Isn't even going to survive. It's Vino that takes him out. And I said that they did need to start doing some more damage, and that's what Vino is quite literally known for in lobbies like these, dealing immense amounts of damage. And they're also known for posturing towards height. You can see right now they are above the rest of the lobby, and they are looking much better on surge. Is that about 467 above? 400 damage dealt in such a short span of time for this team, but there's a reason we call them elite.
They're getting ready too. You can see they're saving those legendary slurp. Effective shield and HP. You saw them looking at their augments. You got to imagine game time has to be shuffled in there somewhere.
And the big thing is they ain't really got to worry about storm sickness, you'd hope, at least this game, just because the zone did pull towards them. I think we didn't really see them going in the storm too much, so I doubt they've taken that much storm damage already.
Just kind of seeing the ingredients right now. I'm going to go ahead and let them cook just a little bit. Just a little bit. Might have to pull the pan off the fire pretty early if things get shaky. But for Juice Fishy and Shimoki, smooth sailing up until this point so far. 85 points. Winning that last game when it came down to the heal off, but no splashes on the back of Shimoki. Murstache and Tayson though, spreading the heal, spreading the joy. Very, very minimal splashes being used off the side of Murstache. So you got to imagine when it comes to Tayson and Murstache, if one of them has to play heal off, like will be Murstache.
Yeah, they need a refresh here, desperately. That is going to be the key to them being able to play any sort of meaningful game here. Hydro and Forstrokia right now showing a masterclass in how to find refreshes as they pick Flixie up.
Oh man, he's already found.
So we picked up, right? Picked up a pizza, I believe that was.
Yep.
And so we might see those guys playing for heal off later on in this game. You can see that floppers as well in the inventory. All around the board, people just trying to stack the heals they can.
I just want to see this unorthodox play that he's probably building. He had the flint knock pistol as well, and combine that with the kinetic blade. If he does figure out a way to take height, he could try to deal some damage on Queasy and Vino. But that's if he can only make it that far. Walk's going to take down not one but two, Andalex and Deoxy. Meet their demise. Hydro and Fastroki, you saw them almost go down at the beginning of this game, still making something of their efforts here. 3 eliminations between the two teams on screen. But you see on the left, Queasy, Vino, smooth sailing. Nobody is even looking up, firing a single shot to try to contest them.
You say that, but as you do, there's a team chopping them out, and so it's going to be them falling. And it was Vidal and Savage that went past them. I don't think they're the ones trying to take it. Either way, they are able to regain it, but they need to hit a big shot to do just that. Shaykos has to sit down for a second. And Vino and Queasy will reclaim high ground, re-hold onto it. But once again here in this game, Vidil and Mr. Savage looking so good, so efficient. And picking up the limbs as well, Vidil. That's what he does best. And that's what he's been doing all season long. These guys, they're going to go the distance. Shamoki and Juice Fishy. Maybe another game for them to potentially come out and win. It's all of the same top dogs from last game, really, to win this one. The consistency has been there here so far. But they have to continue to deliver. Tayson and Mustache, they don't quite have the minerals to play the heal-off game that the rest of the lobby will play. So they're here on low ground. They're trying to claim space. They're trying to find eliminations and pop off. But the pop-offs are happening above. Hydro and Frostroki, 4 so far. And another team here just beneath their layer that they can capitalize on.
Uh-oh, the first of heals are going out for Hellfire, so heal off is not going to be a possibility for him unless he picks up these eliminations. He gets 2 back-to-back. Second one tries to sneak up, and he sends him right back down. There was the heals. I was thinking for a moment, it only gets 1 splash granted for his efforts. Malibuca and Thomas, they have more than enough heals, but they want to aggress onto this player. They want even more. They want the Siphon and whatever he has in his inventory.
And Tayson, in the backside of the zone, very low now in terms of heals, and we already knew that. So it will just have to be a solo clutch, but it won't happen. Vino shuts him down. How many times have we seen them fighting off against each other? Vino looking to continue his reign of terror on this lobby. And another elimination found there, but he's gonna keep it going. He wants to get on Hydro, and Hydro was ready for it. A big shot onto Vino. And now he'll continue to pop his pizzas.
That was basically 50 HP. He landed him a couple extra seconds here in the zone. The heal off is going to start. Thomas goes down, but we knew that one was inevitable. Queasy playing the high ground. 1 splash left, opening up a box of pizza. Vidil's already munching down on his own. Last of the slice is going to be granted into his inventory. 6 more splashes. Even though Malibuca has more, he's hunting for extra heals left, right, and center. 3 more slices of pizza for Queasy in his inventory. 3 more in the box. Will there be any leftovers as we get into our top 3 scenario?
So much heals left, but Queasy's going to continue to move. He seems like he has something else. Vidil had so much, but eventually runs out. And so that just leaves Queasy to win it all out. A nice and easy game forward, and the zone pulled in their favor, Jacob, and they did not disappoint. Queasy and Veno here in Major 2, showing us what they can do.
Like it was clockwork. You saw it from the very end of that game. This moment, particularly right here, Vino giving on over his builds, giving on over his heals to Queasy, dropping down low and trying to prevent every other player from healing off. He got that first elimination. The second one on the Fast Roki as well. Even though he went down, you gotta imagine the damage he did to everybody else in the lobby.
Vino is such a menace. You cannot allow him to go loose in this lobby. It will just be such a problem for anybody else. But it was good to see, Jacob, so many of the teams who did well in game 1, there in game 2 as well. But a new team was added to this as well. Thomas and Malibuca made it very deep into that one. Unfortunately, Malibuca didn't quite have the heal off. But that's what these games are going to be, is who can hold on to the most heals at the end. Can you get, you know, that pizza time and hopefully pop a couple pizzas and win yourself a game?
Yep, we've seen some players return to the top of this leaderboard after game number 2, but we've seen some top competitors go down early in this last game. But luckily for us, we have Zeke, Mini Miner, and Taco to let us know who's on top.
Yeah, Pizza Pit. One extra large with extra pepperoni. Thank you, Pizza Pit.
We get 3.
Yeah, make that 3. I'm
Three.
sorry. Yeah, I just want to be part of the pizza time. That's all I want as well. But finally, Queasy and Vino, this is why we talk about them, right? They have the capability to win games. They pull out all the stops, and I don't know where Queasy was going, but he had another cache. There was a secret pizza party ready to go.
I know where he's going.
Where's he going?
The vault. You know the vault on that island? He had 4 spare pizzas in his inventory when they won that game. He was heading for even more heals. He could have lasted until he could still be going if he was still allowed in the game. He could still be there at the end of the day. Everyone else had gone home, the lights had gone off, and he's still there healing. But it was a great performance of Queasy Veno. Back to their roots, back on top, back on high.
Back to the classic split as well from this duo, because watching Queasy just hold it down with that eagle eye view, possibly even making the call outs for Veno when to try and make those pushes. We saw some great engages from Vino as well, able to find some pretty crucial refreshes along the way, but I think it was largely just the distraction factor that he was able to play. A bit unfortunate with that last pressure push up against Hydro. It just seems as though he was all too ready, waiting there with that Havoc pump to the face, but at the same time, it's just Vino doing what he does best, and that's just running it down on the low ground, giving Queasy all the time in the world to look for the sustain.
I mean, Levin called him a menace, and he is correct, right? Vino just knows, oh, you guys have plans? Well, you don't anymore. It's me, Vino. Knock, knock. I'm knocking on that box. We take a look here, 147 total points with 13 eliminations. Now, the question is, do we keep this going, right? Like, they seem to have a lot of plans, and I love the flexibility, kind of like to your point. Things are going well. They're just like, all right, Vino. I called them this like 2 seasons ago, but Vino's like a dog on a leash. You just like let him go, and you're like, all right, go deal with that issue, and he takes care of it.
Yeah, he's very good at that, right? He just lets him go and Vino just takes everyone out. And that's perfect because, of course, Queezy's up on high, getting all those heals, hoarding them, and Vino can just take everyone out down below, remove all the other issues.
Yeah, you'll love to see it. We're going to continue to talk about a couple duos here. Shimoki doing well as we take a look at our standings to kind of see how things are shaking out. They're currently in 3rd place, 105 points. And now there is a little bit here. I'm sorry, 117 points. It's in reverse. I confused myself. A little bit of a, kind of a lead, right? Breaking into those triple digits. But we did remember they did win game number 1.
And that's the important part, though, is that even in game number 2, they were able to replicate a little bit of that game 1 recipe for success because they had a decent amount of sustain. We saw some nice movement, I think, through the mid-ground layers in particular, and it's really just the fact that they were able to hold on long enough without having to expend those heals too early on that I think really helped out Shimoki the most. But at the same time, not having the kinetic blade, I think, was definitely a bit problematic for them in terms of rotations.
That is something I do want to talk about. We've seen a lot of kinetic blade in ODM gear, and both are powerful, but there is very clearly one is better for the late game.
Yeah, the late game, you really want to be taking that kinetic blade. It just offers that little bit more decisiveness or ease of use, you could say, actually, when you're in that end game. Because, that ODM gear can be very, very good for mid game, but when you're in end game, it's a little bit chaotic, you could say. You don't want to be ending up in people's boxes, but the kinetic blade offers that ease of use and, of course, those extra charges that you don't need to connect onto anything with.
Yeah, and as we saw, Juice Fishy was the only one that was rocking that rare kinetic blade, so he had the availability, but couldn't say the same for his partner, and I think that just caused a little bit too much of a split for them towards the later moments. Yeah,
for sure. I do want to take a moment here to highlight the deal and Mr. Savage, just check in with them to see how kind of things are going. And nobody freak out, right? Again, this is just the second game of the day, but how are things going for the duo?
I think that things are going great.
Yeah.
This is about what you would expect, I think, from such established players in the scene. And again, keep in mind, Major 1 was a complete 180 difference, I think, to what we're seeing in just these first 2 lobbies alone. Vidil, in particular, I think, has had some fantastic elimination moments even early on, funneling into their mid game, because it seems as though they're able to really just prioritize on their positioning.
Well, what did we say last game? They needed extra heals. They expended those heals too early. This game, they fixed that problem. They checked that box. They said, right, we have the heals now. We can get a top 3, and that's exactly what they did.
And that is kind of what you called out, right, when I asked you about it last game. So it's cool to see they're making these adaptations on the fly, kind of as they need to, right? And I mean, again, second place, standing strong currently. Again, it's kind of about, this is like a marathon. This isn't quite a sprint, right? Do we think that they can continue to keep up this momentum? Like, being able to say, hey, Queasy Vino, we're right behind you, I feel like that's a good place to be.
Hey, third time's the charm, potentially, when it comes to this duo. If anything, though, it can certainly build the momentum in the process, just having them have this strong start in the first 2 games.
Not a bad start at all. I mean, hopefully they can continue on. Of course, as you mentioned, Z, it's not a sprint. It is a marathon, not only from this week 1, but week 2, week 3 as well, gaining those series points, getting as high as they can. They're doing very well so far.
Okay. So now, how do we combat the heal-offs, right? That's enough pizza parties. They're done. All right, everybody take off your pizza hats. We're done. How do we actually deal with this?
How do we deal with the heal-off?
Yes.
I think it's difficult for teams that aren't landing at drops that they can get loads of heals off the rip, right? I think it's going to be about those pizzas. Unfortunately, Zeke, we're going to see some more pizza going through. Unfortunately for you, because you're trying to cancel the pizzas. I want to see more pizzas. Bring them on.
Pizza Pit's bringing me 3 large pepperoni pizzas, so...
Oh, yeah.
I guess there's no way. How do we keep up, then? If we need the heals, what do we do?
I think the main thing is going to see some of these duos maybe looking for more aggressive pushes to try and find refreshes instead.
Yeah, okay. Well, hey, Game 2 all done and wrapped up. We have Game 3 on standby for us, so y'all know what time it is. Grab your pizza hats! We got large pepperonis up in the house. Let's go.
The analysts have ordered more pizza, and so more pizza they will get, Jacob. We will not deny them for their needs, and the players certainly have been ordering a bunch of pizza. We've been seeing it all over so far this season, and we're seeing it here today.
Yeah, and you're seeing how methodical this heal-off strategy actually is. You take too much storm damage too early, your opportunity goes out the window. You don't have the heals, your opportunity goes out the window. If you use your heals too early, your opportunity goes out the window. So you have to really be precise when and where you actually use your heals.
Yeah, look, we're going to obviously focus on the teams who are healing off so much, but for the teams that don't have the heals, right, what do you do in those situations? What we have seen seen is players go for complete pop-off games, right? You claim space, you go try frag out, and that's exactly what they'll do here in game number 3. Tayson and Mustache were a team who sort of had to go for that style, right? In that last game, they didn't have the heals to compete and play for heal-off. They know that. They know that well before they even got to the end game. And so they took a different approach. This is certainly an approach, winning off spawn and dancing. That's typical Fortnite. That's classic Fortnite. Doesn't matter the chapter of the season. That is Fortnite.
That's why you don't 50-50 that. That was like a 25-25, 25-25 each, 2 different chests. But it's the floor loot. It's, oh no, I was about to say Saze actually does get that from the chest. The floor loot really almost made the difference. Nako and Dan, 50-50 again. But this time, instead of just a couple of chests, it's for an entire house where Amos finds probably the best loadout you could get right out of a drop. The Havoc Suppress, the Maven, even a kinetic blade if he wants to try to disengage. But in the feed, Vino and Queasy went down off spawn.
That is a very, very rare occurrence. These guys usually do not lose off spawn. And so to see them go down there, that's a big, big shock. And that will definitely shake up the standings. They were sitting relatively comfortably in first. And if they can't stay in this game, it will be the end. Over here, Amos and Killian, they pick up their limbs. And again, a celebration dance. But what happened over at Kinjitsu? Oh, wow. Out-dropped. I promise you, I do not see that very often at all. Firebro and Artist, somebody must have given them a drop map in between the 2 games because they went from horrendous drops, quite frankly, in game 2 to out-dropping Queasy and Vino here in game 3.
Even forcing out the double pickaxe from Queasy and Vino. And just Queasy losing an important 1v1. That's something you don't necessarily see every single day here when it comes to Fortnite. But some of the battles that we've seen throughout the day, 3rd time to be exact here in game number 3, Fastroki and Hydro over towards Mega City, but that north side this time around actually looks like it's a little bit uncontested, and there you go in the feed. 29 points for Queasy and Vino coming into this game. Well, you better throw those out the window because the way Mr. Savage and Vidil are playing, that's going to be a gap they're going to close here in this game.
Yeah, they've consistently been making it deep in games. And both players feeling very confident this season. We're seeing it pay off here for them now. Rose and Clown, unfortunately, they're not going to be too confident about their chances here, especially with how low Rose is. We get space to use some mini shields, but Clown is taking a large amount of damage now as well. It's Kami and Vanyak who are causing them issues, and Kami hitting some big shots. We know Vanyak hits big shots, but Kami's also doing that now, and Vanyak will be the one to close them both down as well as Kami chases along. This is a duo I'm very excited to see. We've not seen much of them today, Jacob, but if you've never watched Vanyak before, he is that guy. Like,
yeah, that was my first time kind of watching him. One of the most insane solo clutches to this day. Before the game was even over, before the analysts were even breaking it down, I was sending him a message saying, whoa, that was absolutely insane. Hopefully we can see more of that, and we honestly have since that moment. And another one right before our very eyes is Swizz and Alvi. A little bit of a split drop here towards, I would say, the center, a little bit more towards the north. You see the snow biome there.
this team had a good second game. They pushed their way up in the standings about 23 places. And they currently now sit in that top 10, about 8th place. So a nice sort of platform for them to build off of as they move on forward. It doesn't seem like they were contested this time round, so they won't have that damage off spawn. And to be fair, sometimes the off-spawn damage isn't everything, right? Yeah. Especially if it's a 50-50 fight like it is at this POI. It's only about, what, 200 that you can get max most of the time. So it's not the be-all, end-all. There will be plenty of opportunities for them to find damage elsewhere.
Yeah, you're usually, after you win that off-spawn fight, you're still on the hunt for Surge regardless. But for them, they just got to ramp it up. Maybe 30 seconds quicker on a lot of their rotations, 30 seconds quicker farming. Try to get to their position to get the Surge. Stompy and JJ2 trying to be 30 seconds quicker in this own fight. They have their opponents separated, 2 different angles as well, but JJ2 displaced there for a short moment. The opponent's box he was in, but he continues to land the shots and heal off the shield keg, but over 150 damage from what looked like a body shot right there. He gets sent on the defensive end as the edits come through. Stompy's gonna finish that one off, but he gets attacked from another angle. Almost 150 damage straight to him as well, but the 2v1, JJ2 allowing him a little bit of stability to heal as they edit through and gets that elimination as well.
That's really nice there from that duo. Quickly cleaning things up. And we'll hop right into another fight where we're seeing players being forced to use their gear to get out as quickly as possible. This Rizmaker.
We didn't. No. Levin. What had happened was.
Oh no.
What had happened was he was baiting that opponent to come back. Watch. Now he's down. He's coming back, thinking he has a 1v1, and this is where Maker is going to be the hero. Watch.
I want to believe in your fantasy. I really do. But what it looks like to me is that Fanasian has absolutely thrown this one in the bin. If he's not able to pick up the revive, Rizmaker will have to just take the fight. And if you can't win the fight, it will be very, very heartbreaking way to bow out in game 3. Oh, you gotta hit that shot, Rizmaker. You don't get many other chances like that one.
Oh, I was about to say that was a good job for him to kind of go underneath the building.
I love how he hits the more difficult shot.
On the toes, too, instead of just beaming him as she's there. Riz, Maker, towards the low ground, trying to go ahead and go for the res, but the audio cue is going to be given up. And it's going to go through another missed opportunity from Maker. Got to imagine Itchy be down and dusted if he hit some of the most important shots, but he's doing a good job here on the defensive end, trying to keep Fanasian alive. Make up for a blunderous mistake, but the edit is through. The shots are going to get traded. Itchy's going to be forced to back up. Maker has that much more HP. He can actually start the res here and maybe even get it off.
Yeah, Rizmaker's done a great of a job as you can do, considering the circumstances. He's kept his duo in the game for a while. Hasn't quite been able to create the separation in order to actually win the fight and we'll get the revive off. So Itchy's just going to continue to pester.
Like Itchy's just playing right now, not necessarily to take out Maker, but to distract him long enough for Fanasian to actually go down altogether and then maybe try to disengage, get your teammate back up. But this is just valuable points, valuable possible loot. Quick move it by Itchy.
That was a very crucial side jump because
It really was.
Rizmaker had all the control of the pieces there. If he did not get away, it would have been tragic. Itchy's just being such a thorn in their side. And soon Fanasian's probably going to bleed out.
Uh-oh.
Oh, dear. Oh, no. Rizmaker, he dropped him into the box, but he didn't hit the shots. And so Itchy wins it out. But if you're Fanasian in that one, you are absolutely fuming. I'm sure he'll be livid with himself.
70.
What a shot.
Oh, I don't even know. I feel like both of them have to kind of like call it even there at that point. I know Maker was doing so much to try to stay alive. Fanasian with the blunderous mistake, with the missed shots from Maker, so it's kind of a wash. It's an even. Nobody really has the right to complain after that one. Just kind of have to really think. Use the time that you're spending back in the lobby to figure out what happened, what went wrong. You see in some of the pieces that we see coming out from Tundra and Vino, and how to calculate your mistakes and fix them on the fly. These games, even though it might seem like a long time, 6 straight games, they go rather quickly, and they'll be gone right before you know it.
You have to use your opportunities while you have them. Again, a look here at Mega City and all the different bases and towers that these players will build. If you've got some spare shields, the aim of the game will be to just look to take fights where you can get your Storm Surge damage up as much as possible.
This is even though it does have like an east lean in terms of the zone, this is probably the most center that we're going to get for now. So for a lot of the teams, if you didn't kind of get that centered spot, centered POI, centered split drop, whatever you kind of land at, and you're more towards the outskirts, you have more than enough opportunity in this game to kind of make up for your positioning, as Thomas allowing Malibuka to rotate first and just trying to be the player to kind of cover him up. Lands a great amount of damage, but Malibuka's forced to kind of backtrack in his steps, kind of alleviate some of the pressure that Thomas was facing.
Yeah, this is a tough spot to be in, right? You see a lot of their surges found in these sort of areas surrounding Mega City, and in times where you just get forced into choke points like the one they're in, where it is so hard for them to rotate through.
Just a reminder of what our leaderboard actually looks like going into this game. Rather stacked. So it's going to be a great opportunity for any of these players that might even be outside of this top 5 to try to make up for lost time, make up for lost points. It's Humble and Bala looking like they're just trying to survive here. Humble doesn't have any shields, even lost some HP along the way. But luckily for him, his teammates there to kind of alleviate some of that pressure, allow him to play defensively before they disengage and try to relocate to a different spot in zone.
Yeah, they're going to keep on moving towards the south here. Probably their best bet, especially with the lack of anything really, right? When it comes to their builds, they need to go farm a bit. Mr. Savage and Vidil, we've not seen them much in the moments leading up to end games, but they've certainly been present in every single end game we've seen so far. But this is their chance now to take first place away from Queasy and Veno, who are no longer in this game. The first place team is down. And here, our second place team, if they can have another good game, will be well on their way to claiming first place.
Right now, it does look like they're going to go to that slower side of the zone, the eastern side, as it did pull a little bit towards the west, still centered, so equal ground for a lot of the teams here in this lobby. Interesting loadout, though. A red eye and a tactical pistol. No,
Some players like
no
the
shotgun.
pistols.
But no variation, no Maven, no combat, no Havoc, nothing.
Yeah, that one's a bit rare. But you know what's not rare?
What?
Vivid giving us some top analysis. So let's throw it to Vivid, who's got an update on Thomas HD for us.
Thomas HC, of course, looking for another one of those comeback games. Game 2 was one of them for them. Levin mentioned, gained about 20 placements that game. Going to need another good game this one, and they're already poised up to follow that performance up. Setting themselves up here on the southern side, of course, with the way the zone is pulling, a lot of congestion finding us up on the southern side of that zone. So pay attention to how this zone plays out. And pay attention to Thomas HC and Malibuca following the rest of this game.
You see the way they were just based up there, right? That's what all those teams at Land Racetrack like to do. That's the way they like to play. In different regions, you'll see different teams and players doing it. But Mustache and Thomas, I say Mustache and Thomas, I keep mixing it all up. What am I doing today, Jacob? Malibuca.
That was neat. Last season, Thomas wasn't even alive in the game, but somehow Tayson and Thomas were fighting Mustache and Malibuca. So I don't even know how that happened last season when they weren't even on the same team. But that just goes to show how familiar you are with their game.
What I wanted to say, right, was that Malibuca and Thomas, you saw how many shots they were hitting, right, when Vivid was speaking. They are very good surge aimers, and they can connect to the shots. We'll see where that leaves them in terms of their surge later down the line, because they need to continue to hit surge, right? It's all good and well getting your surge early on in the game. You have to keep dealing damage throughout, not just in those earlier zones.
Luckily for everybody, this is moving a little bit outside of Mega City. This is one of those zones that you really don't want to face this season. So many different variations, but talk about a zone, an easy way to get there. Use the Rift Island if you have a kinetic blade, or if you have those ODM gears to allow you like perfect rotation anywhere you want to be. And if you don't have the confidence to go for that Rift Island, you could be one of those teams that boxes up on the rifts that spawn below the actual island. Free rotation. You can utilize your kinetic blade charges later on in the game and kind of survey for information as you travel to your spot.
Cheating and Clubshy, one of the few teams in the lobby that's going to have to rotate all the way from the north side. And I'll tell you what, I won't be too upset about that with the loadouts they have. Some of the best loot they could possibly have, as well as some very good materials.
She was one of those players last season that he was really taking the whole lobby by force, by storm, really surprising people, just like Vortex under attack right now. ODM gears proving to be a little bit of annoyance as everything gets destroyed and destructed all around. Another team's really going to fall victim, which allows them a little bit of time and flexibility to try to get that res off. That's Bala and Humble causing a lot of that chaos and damage. So much disruption going down, but Japko and Vortex are going to be able to kind of get back on up to shape. And hopefully there's at least some of this loot left behind so they can scavenge and get that HP and shield back to where they want it to be.
This is so messy, though. Such a messy situation.
think, and being one of the first teams to go for Humble and Bala, you almost want to find the kinetic blade. You heard some of our analysts break it down. Both very good tools for rotation throughout the course of the game, but once you get in towards the end game, that's when you really want to favor that kinetic blade. No chance of really getting tagged out of the sky and getting your rotation stopped. The only thing you got to worry about is pre-planning, whether you have the legendary or that rare variant, 2 or 3 charges. That's the only thing you really got to think about.
You actually meant to say epic or rare variant?
I meant to say rare. I was thinking Epic Games, the wonderful makers of Fortnite. Changing my life forever. I get to cast with Levin. Like, come on. It's Christmas in April. I was about to say July, but man, we are a few months earlier.
All right, you're glazing now. Let's move on with the real action here. You got Stompy, who's taking a bit of damage sitting in this bush here. And I promise you, they don't need Surge, but they'll continue to take shots. They do need to get closer to zone, though. One of the problems they'll have is that they are right beneath the Rift Island. And there are a lot of teams in this general area that will just take shots at them. They're at mercy to the rest of the lobby right now. I think it's Ju and Raisin who are taking some shots at them, and they're doing it because they actually need the damage. They need some Surge.
Oof. We knew pizzas were coming yet again in this game, but being forced to use them this early was a little disastrous. So for them, you got to think their win condition is to get a refresh on somebody late in the game, re-scavenge some of those heals. But in order to get there, they got to start putting down more damage. 109 below the Storm Surge threshold. In order to get to point B, they got to finish this point A.
Yeah, they've had to rotate a decent amount, and so...
Wow.
It's no figure, but you really have to start thinking. Look, guys, I don't know if you're going to be able to get your Surge from JJ2 and Stompy, because those guys certainly have no reason to peek and give it to you.
Multiple teams in this lobby really falling victim to the early game Storm Surge. Smokey and Juice Fishy trying to utilize the rifts. While other players are trying to utilize it in terms of rotation, they're trying to utilize it as free targets flying through the sky. Storm Surge really just tearing them apart. Shields draining right before our very eyes. Last of the heals when it comes to getting those shields back is going to be used. Smokey's going to be left with nothing other than a med kit. 117 points at this stage of the game. It's not where you want to go down, especially with Queasy and Vino going down at the start of this one.
Yeah, this game's a very different game for this team as well. We've not seen them struggling with Surge too much in this competition. But yet here we are, and they're being forced to get in. And get in they will. 163 above now, after being down in the dirt, forced to make a play happen. And that's exactly what they did.
But was it enough? I'm gonna always ask myself that question throughout the course. Honestly, this entire FNCS, was it enough? Using all your heals, expending a ton of mats to get into the spot, but Smokey and Juice Fishy, they did get that refresh, so that's not gonna be a worry. It's just gonna be the heals. The only sign of HP to regain on Smokey is still that med kit that he had a few short moments ago. So Juice Fishy, better hope he has something, but 175 below the damage threshold. Other teams taking notice that they're suffering to damage. Shields getting cracked a few times along the way. They're beginning to make this a focus. Oh,
What
wow.
a shot from JJ2, the range on that. My goodness. No, his opponent wasn't too high on HP, but in any case, we're still able to connect when they're matted. And there you see it. Shamoki and Juice Fishy down. That was one of our higher placed teams as well. That just wasn't quite able to hit the mark. They had some surge issues in this game, and it's cost them here now. Oh
wow.
JJ2 and Stompy, they want a piece of the action as well.
JJ2 is part of one of the duos last season along with Glumshy, who kind of surprised me. Really taking lobby after lobby, finals after finals by storm. Even the qualifiers, or the opens, I should say, in order to get up into that point. So, interesting seeing how this new duo of Stompy, who's also known for a little bit of aggression, come out, kind of bring it along with JJ2. Working well together in tandem, a new team this season, along with Mr. Savage and Vidil, new team. 8 splashes, though, for Mr. Savage. Only 41 above the damage threshold.
And I'm just holding teams I need to rotate in.
to above. Keeping his eye on the prize, trying to keep these teams outside of the zone. The elimination feed continues to light up. Players getting caught off guard, left, right, and center. Mr. Savage sees somebody towards the outskirts. Him and Vidil are just putting so much pressure towards the edge of the zone, but as the next one pulls in, they realize I got a far pull, so now they got to start thinking proactive in terms of their next play.
Yeah, they need to time some katanas well if they have any chance of surviving this max pool. Oh, but they've done that all throughout today. Big shot there from Strokey.
Wow.
Hydra in this one, so he's going to have to keep hitting big shots. If you're him, would you drop your SMG maybe for the chugs? I'm not sure how many chugs that was. Just fully play for heal off?
My first initial thought said yes. My heart said yes, but...
Did you have a lot of mats?
I didn't really see that, but my thought was he's a solo, so he needs to put out a high amount of DPS, so he might need the SMG to follow up with one shot. But my initial gut wanted to say yes, play the heals, play the heal off. Even if you don't have enough to win with a VR, you stagger yourself and you gather as much placement points as possible.
Wow, Jureki.
Oh my gosh.
That is the plays you need to make. When you're down on Surge, there's nothing left for you in this game. You can't be too passive. You've seen that from so many unexperienced teams where they just aren't ready to make the right plays that is going to allow them to win games. But Jureki, with no fear in his heart there, sees the window of opportunity and smashes his way right through it.
Like an acrobat in the circus. Just putting on a show for everybody at home. Definitely going into somebody's top plays of week number 1 when it comes to EU. Vidil, not very much health when it comes to that. Pizza going that too early for Mr. Savage. Heal off might not be a possibility unless they get a refresh.
It's less so about being too early, but it was just a necessity, right? They have taken so much damage, they need to heal up. They can't play the end game with the HP they were on, but that might cost them down the line, right? When they do want to play the heal off, you are certainly right. Mustache and Tayson, they're having some struggles now. They need to start dealing some damage. Down on Surge. And another game where they probably won't be able to play for heal off in this one unless they can get a refresh that gives them everything they need and have those pizza time augments waiting for them to be collected for Strokey. Still alive, Jureki still alive as a solo, and he almost went for the Mongrel Classic there. I think he thought he had it. The player was not underneath the stair. Glove cheating. They're down on Surge as well. They need to start hitting some shots. There's still so many players left in this game.
Well, other players might have got a little antsy when they saw there's only one below the Surge to try to peek. That's absolutely nothing, especially when you have heals to try to out-heal it. 6 slices of pizza in the inventory for Fast Strokey. One of the guys we were looking at called out the moment he became a solo, but Slove is also there by himself, but only for a few seconds before his teammate uses that kinetic blade to try to close the distance. 47, still below the damage threshold, tries to fall through the sky, taking some damage as well, somehow pushes somebody straight to the ground, back to the lobby, but he meets that same demise.
He lands in the box of Diox and is punished as a result of it. All the way up above though.
Wow.
Asher and Slove, they've ramped all the way onto ulti height. And they look to hold it now. All it'll take is someone to look up to start to chop it out. But zone closes, the effect of a chop diminishes. They'll just land right back on height if you try it. And Alex and Diox, though, they're still in this one. We just saw Diox pick up 1, and these guys are looking to pick up more as well.
Yep. Top 30 competitors, top 18 teams coming into this 10th zone, beginning to move, beginning to force people to make some crazy decisions on the fly as Diox is trying to go for a flank and a sneak attack onto one. Mustache is going to have to go as a solo as he loses Tayson along the way. You preface this just a little bit without the heals. They're going to be forced to try to play aggressive. Finds a med kit, but switches that on over to Floppers. The instant heal is going to be that much more important and useful for Mustache in this situation. Malibuka and Thomas, 3 eliminations, beginning to heat up in this game. Consistency is key. Monk tries to defend himself with a well-placed cone, but he still goes down.
And look at that gift. That player just dropped right into their box. It was the free lava almost. And that just keeps them going. It allows them to keep on tarping. Jureki, as a solo, has done so well to stay alive up to this point, but he's running low on builds. You've got to think he's going to have to jump in soon or drop to low. And if he does, there will be players waiting here for him. There's Mustache on the other side of this wood, just beneath him. He doesn't know it though yet. There's a player running right past him. I don't know how that player didn't shoot him, but he's still alive here.
One of those plays that you got your head scratching. How did it happen and why? But that's nonetheless, he still goes down. But a second chance that life was given that he didn't take advantage of. Vidal, we saw him go down as well. Savage, no heals. He's just trying to make it to the front side of zone. He has just a little bit of builds to work with, but for him, he wants to try to bypass this chaos. That's why you see him going towards the outskirts of zone before he tries to go right back in.
And you can see just all the solos just having to try and frag out down beneath, wherever's going up on height. Thomas and Malabuka are still down here though, and they can definitely play for the heal off. Need to make sure they don't take any unnecessary ticks of damage. We know how long they can last. Slove and Asa though. Slove's been tasked with dropping down and eliminating anybody that has a chance of heal off. And he has a med miss now. He can drop that for Asa when he needs it. I'm sure they'll keep track of that. Asa will be ready to drop down and use that one. They have so much for heals. Malabuka's fallen. And so now, Thomas's chances of healing off, they seem to be somewhat diminished. He doesn't have much left in the tank. He just needs to start hitting shots, and shots will be there to be hit. Della will fall, and now it's a 1v1. But Asa, all the way up above, has way too many heals for Thomas to do anything about. You've got to think. A lot of splashes he picked up, but look at the pizza, look at the slurps. We know he has a med miss available to him as well. Unless Thomas HD can find something astronomical here, you don't think he can win this one. You don't think he can hold on.
Gotta imagine, though, if anybody took that storm damage early on in the game, it could be it. He finds even more. Thomas has more to work with. 3 splashes left, 3 pizzas of pizza, a slurp juice, med mist being used, still 2 splashes for the last moments when Storm Sickness begins to tick in. It's on it on the other side. Ace is now taking some extra damage, forced to use the heals. Thomas, he clutches up big, play after play, finding every single heal along the way to take the game.
And it was Storm Sickness. That was Asa's demise. He had so many heals. He still probably could have dropped down to get the med miss, but with taking too much storm damage earlier on in the game, it continuously is going to be what stops these teams with all the uber heals from playing the way they want. And it's Thomas who stays cool, stays calm and collected, finds that med miss that was so crucial. Without that, the game's done. There's no chance.
That siphon, too. That elimination, he sneaked up. That's 50 extra HP. Doesn't matter how much toppings he had on that pizza on the high ground. It just wasn't enough. And there was even a scare there. There was a scary moment at the end where it looked like Thomas was trying to pass on over all the heals to Malabuka. Malabuka goes down. Thomas just makes a daring play to go even deeper in the zone, pick him back up, and win the game.
And it's good to see these guys get into the action. Game 2, they were impressive. They were there. They showed us that they're here in this lobby. Game 3, they come through and win it. Oh, what a game from this team. But let's send it to the best people to break it down. Zeke and the analysts, what you got for us?
Thank you guys so much. This is what we actually had a moment here to talk about when the show began. It's experience. And that moment, Thomas HD experience kicks in, and he's just calm, cool, and collected. He knows what he's got to do to get the job done.
Perfectly executed from Thomas HD. That med miss really saved him right there at the end, of course. Asa had more heals as it happened, but the Storm Sickness didn't quite work out for them.
It seemed, honestly, as though Asa really believed that he had that one in the bag.
Yeah.
It looked like the freest victory royale of all time, but that decision from Thomas and Malabuka earlier on to drop their heals, wait for the perfect opportunity to basically double back once Thomas realized that the coast was clear. I also love the way that he went and actually pushed for those final eliminations to make sure that there would be no interference when he was playing the sustain game.
It is wild, man. The pizza parties are in full effect right now. Congratulations to Malabuka and Thomas HD. A victory on a duo. I feel like, yeah, if you told me they were going to get a victory royale today, I'd be like, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it's not too surprising, really, is it? I mean, even there at the end, Thomas HD saving 2 splashes. So many people would have just used those splashes, but he saved them because he can then counter a little bit of Storm Sickness if he needed to. As it happened, it didn't even need to do that, but that med miss really saved him. Beautiful plays from Thomas.
Absolutely wild. I wonder as well, you know, how much do you have to consider, right, when you're in these final moments? For them, they're like, yeah, we know what we left behind. Like, there's so much to have to keep account of, right? And again, it does actually come down to execution. You kind of have to know how to stack these heals.
Yeah, I do think a part of it, though, you can definitely see how detrimental it is for players when they don't have those healing resources available for them. Because, again, Asa all the way up on top, but Solve, someone who is really trying to work their way through the mid-ground layers, and even with that rare Havoc pump, managing to find some really clutch refreshes because they needed those heals. They came at the perfect instance, and even then, it still wasn't enough in comparison to what some of their opposition were rocking.
Yeah, and look, now we turn our attention to the standings for just a moment. Vidil and Mr. Savage, they finally take over this leaderboard. Currently 160 points there. Only 11 points ahead of Queasy and Vino, but hey, a lead is still a lead.
Yeah, we saw Queasy and Venom there going down very early on. They tried to go for the double pickaxe, but that doesn't really work too well when you're going against weapons and guns. So that didn't quite work out for them. But another big game from Queasy Venom could see them putting back on top. But of course, Vidil and Mr. Savage, they are definitely going to be trying to stay up there.
Yeah, for Queasy and Venom, sometimes it's the thought that counts. But hey, I mean, given their recent performances, though, in the last couple of lobbies, I think they're not too beat up over it. But for Vidil and Savage, again, this is where we really are starting to see the individual skill level when combined and all the potential that we were talking about. Love seeing them at this point halfway through.
For sure, and kind of to double back there, Thomas HG, they're jumping up into that third place, right? Suddenly they're like, hey, one good pizza party, we're here to play as well. A duo that's currently not in our top 10 is Tayson. We're looking to kind of see if they can pick up momentum to kind of make it in that top 10 as well.
That's what it's all about, picking up momentum. I think in this instance, they didn't quite prepare well enough. We saw Slove and Ace all the way up on high ground. We saw them building that huge sky base. They prepared very well. They got all their heals done. But what we saw, Mustache takes them. They didn't have that in their locker, so they had to be a little bit more aggressive at the end. They didn't have the heals to use right at the end, so they had to. And it was just an unfortunate situation for them. Maybe they fought a little bit earlier on, which expended those heals, but not a bad performance.
Yeah, and I think also this aggressive gameplay coming out of Mustache and Tayson is kind of playing a little bit of spoiler to some of these other duos that are just trying to wait for those late game instances to utilize their sustain. Instead, they're having to worry about these pincer maneuvers getting pressured, and nobody wants to have to deal with all that aggression.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that everyone's kind of building these maximum height sky bases. You know, we kind of dealt with that during the hammers, the shockwave hammers, and everyone was like, if we just build high enough, we're fine. Same premise applies here to the Kinetic Blade.
It's crazy, and that is what is all about, preparing that sky base early, knowing, actually, you know, we have all these heals in the bank. We have all of these materials in the bank. Why not just go up onto sky base? It looks like one of those content creator videos that you see in pubs, you know, seeing people going all the way up on high. It's amazing to see. It's great to watch, and I like to see the teams down below just observing and just going, you know what, there's no hope, really, is there, of getting up there. But yeah, it's been great so far.
It is kind of crazy as well, knowing that the teams that are playing up on height, sure, they're able to find tags from here and there, but at the same time, they're not necessarily forcing eliminations. No. They don't really need them. All they really need to do is keep that positioning so that they don't have to expend their heals as early as some of the other teams in the lower layers.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these duos, they're thinking the same thing. We ain't want no more pizza parties. We want to find these duos. We want to eliminate them, and that's what we have to do. We have to be a little more aggressive than I feel like EU's maybe used to. Like, EU is the aggressive region, but I think we're asking for more aggression.
I think they need to. Towards the latter stage of the tournament, you need to apply that aggression, because if they don't want to have these heal-offs, you have to just be aggressive yourself. You can't rely on everyone else to not take heals, not take the pizzas. Yeah. It's not going to happen, so you have to take the stage and take the front foot to go for those eliminations at the end. I think that's what we're seeing a little bit more of, and I expect more of the same.
Plus, it's a little bit risky just trying to rely on pure aggression as well, because just because you find a refresh, you might get that instant siphon, but you won't necessarily get the materials that you need in order to stay alive later on.
Yeah, so many little things go into getting that victory out and even making that top 10. How will teams continue to develop? Well, let's find out. We have the next game ready to go. So, find your seats. It's game time.
Seats have been found, and game time it is. Zeke, Raren, and ready to go, Levin. I've been excited, even though heal-off isn't our traditional way to win a lot of these games. It has its own unique set of skills. It's more brain over brawn this time around.
It's more who can just find the pizzas more, right? Who's best at rolling up the dough, you know what I'm saying? And we're definitely seeing that from a lot of these teams, right? If you have that pizza at the end, it is the key to success. And I can assure you it will be the key to success again here in this game. As the battle bus loads up, the players are ready. The question will be, will we see some newer teams maybe start to get into the fray? I think we're seeing, you know, the teams that I think many people, the usual suspects per se, are the ones that we're seeing in these lobbies right now. And to be fair, there were a lot of top teams that missed out on actually qualifying to the stage, right? The likes of, you know, Camion City missing out. The Aquas and O'Reillys of the world.
Thank God we have some of the best observers in all the land, because the unspeakable just happened yet again. Outdropped and outplayed. Down goes Vino, down goes Queasy to start the game.
If I speak, I'm in big trouble if I speak.
Well, I'll take over. Hellfire, Ref's Guard towards Mega City. This time around, nobody is even towards the north part of Mega City. They're getting very, very active right out of the gates. It probably comes down to who had the better drop in these moments. Knox there. Hellfire trying to go for the cleanup. Goes down, fakes it right back, goes up. But it's he who gets faked out in the end. Him and Ref's Guard gets him back to the lobby.
Yeah, he went all in at the end there, and it didn't quite pay off. The Strokey and Hydra, will they get involved in the fighting? It certainly wouldn't be out of character for them too.
They are going to get that res now that they won that fight. Still 3 teams left, though. Towards Mega City. Plenty of loot to get passed around from everybody here. Still has some sort of claim to it. Isha's going to go ahead and win a huge 1v1. Basically winning it out for the team. And a chance for the reboot to come through. Somebody in the minimap begins to close the distance. Maybe even trying to get some cheeky shots for their own Storm Surge. You see it coming in the distance. A couple of them are going to hit. A ban is going to go ahead and live to tell the tale. Just a shred of HP left on. He's trying to reunite with his teammates, get any of the scraps that's left behind, so he can at least try to play defensive here if push comes to shove.
Yeah, they'll be very happy. Banwise especially, that he's back in the game. Gabix and Shmeki over towards Lonely Labs. There's nothing lonely about it right now. There is another duo here that's causing them issues. That's Tenzi in the distance. The deal on this is Savage. Another game where their top competitors are down and out, and so hopefully this time around things can go a bit better for them. And using those blades to close out that fight there, Mr. Savage.
Another off-spawn win. Mr. Savage and Video. They continue to try to, honestly, reclaim their throne as, to the biggest competitors in the region. I think this is the year for Mr. Savage. I just have a feeling he's just playing lights out. A version of him that we haven't seen in a long while is Shmeki and Gabix. Trying to make sure nobody's floating around Lonely Labs, even though there is going to at least be one player there. They're just trying to look for him. Get that elimination, clean him up so they have less to worry about. Goals and found, though. Going against the other team. The elevation is going to go on over to them. That's Karmi and Vanyak that kind of get smushed down towards the low ground. But if they only knew Grolls just has one clip in his twin mag, this is definitely pushable.
And if you know Vanyak, he'll be very open to that. Because even with just one pellet in his shotgun left, he's bound to hit something crazy with it.
In the distance is a whole third party building up, closing in. They see it all happening right before their very eyes, but nobody really peeking outside of the box, so no opportunities just yet to land any cheeky shots. Until then, he go ahead and rotates almost all the way out of the line of sight. He gets tagged up. All the rest of his raining shield gets draped right back on off. In this game, Tayson and Mustache looking a little bit more aggressive than we've seen him so far to start out the game. 88 points, probably trying to make up for lost time. Deals a good amount of damage before he takes some shots from that third party, scaring him away.
I was going to say, hold on a minute. We don't often see them get into all the hectic fights here at Slappy. They're usually the ones that are a lot cooler, roll in all smooth like afterwards to clean up. Everyone's seeming to disengage. Nobody wants to go full-fledged into a fight. Rizmaker, Finasian. Last time we saw Finasian, he unfortunately went down to his own mistake. It was a bit of fall damage, wasn't it, that took him out? And unfortunately, Rizmaker couldn't clutch up. So now, a chance at redemption against the same team. It's Itchy and Nagi here against them in a very similar area to where they were last time around as well. Hopefully no full damage being taken from either side.
Yeah, and hopefully Rizmaker, towards the bottom, isn't too hard on himself. I feel like he made every right move in the book during that fight, except for hitting the shots that mattered.
Oh, of course not. You can't be.
And those are the moments right there, like, you can get mad at maybe, you know, you kinetic blade to the wrong side of the map. You slide down the mountain. You take some damage. Your teammate makes a mistake. But missing a shot, yeah, you can get mad at that. But you got to realize if you're making all the right plays, at least your mind is warmed up and ready to go.
Yeah, he won't be mad at himself. I promise you that. He'll be mad at his teammate for going down to 4 damage. That's what he'll be mad at. 100%. I promise
Honestly.
you that. You can see here, Thomas HD, again, once again in this base. And I like this, right? Based all the way up. He's put some stairs over in the direction of Mega City. He doesn't want to take the trades and the fights towards that side. He's looking on the other way. He's built the base in metal as well, which is interesting. I think we often see those bases built in brick or wood, but after the latest update, brick is a lot harder to come by, so you don't want to be using brick. It's a lot harder to refarm, so he's building up in metal instead. Looking for tags.
Like the way you kind of point that out. And obviously, everybody knows at this stage in the game, years later, you don't build a tower that high in the sky out of wood. Tear down pretty easy. Doesn't take a lumberjack to make that a possibility. Pixie and Della, they honestly started the day off strong. Brave enough to even go for Rift Island, make it late into game number 1. Since then, they left some points on the board, but they're one of the teams that I have more than enough confidence that in the last half of the day, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and they're going to hold that saying true. Okay. Outside of zone. Not too far, though. For now, still got 40 seconds as it continues to close. Popping a big pot just to make sure if they are going to fight, if they are going to exchange some shots, he can take the damage while he dishes it out.
Yeah, Romek just waiting here in Storm. Making their move on in, cheating. Positioned up here at the top of this hill, and he's waiting for those guys to drop down, and drop down they will, but he's not actually connected with the shot.
Slowly but surely, you see him rotating towards Brittle Bastion, the static launch pads. There's tons of mobility options for him. Try to figure out where he does want to go. Obviously, the zone is also going to play a little bit of a portion, almost like a mirrored zone from that last game. Instead of the east this time around, center towards the west. So for teams that may have thought they got a far pull last game, this time around, they can hopefully make some adjustments to get there just a little bit quicker.
Texas and Axels, who we often see in this general area. Currently now not doing too bad today.
No.
Not doing too bad today, to say the least, and we'll continue on that trend. We still have this game and a couple more to go. Trex and Kiduo, they've been ever present as well. But they need to get some of their mats up. Not too strong in that regard. But look, Jacob, we have plenty of the best analysts, not just Vivid. We also have Mini Miner, who's going to join us and give us some updates on what's going on all around the map. Mini, what's up?
Thank you, Levin. Now, of course, we saw the deal and Mr. Savage winning it out of spawn, and now this allows them just to chill. They can claim this capture point, getting the visuals on anyone that could be lurking nearby, but of course, those extra heals as well. We see Mr. Savage, of course, with that kinetic blade, as well as the deal, who also has one in his inventory. I'm excited to see if this duo can replicate the success they've been having.
Thank you so much, Mini Miner. Looking like the star of the show with that breakdown. Making sure that we don't miss a second of the action. And honestly, for Verdeel and Mr. Savage, they've been on such a run so far, taking down their opponents at their actual landing spot. That drop spot's going to be theirs game after game if they can keep it up. But Tayson tries to dish out a good shot, but takes even more damage in that backfire. Loses Mustache along the way to none other than Fnage and Rizmaker, who are trying to make up for that last game. Oh, oh. Had to be him. Najin just takes a little bit too much damage over Pekin.
The funny thing is, right, as we think about the latter stages of this game, anytime you see these kind of fights in the Storm, you do just start to think all of these teams are writing off their potential to actually win the heal-off, right? Because all this Storm damage will contribute towards Storm sickness. And if you get Storm sickness, ain't no heal-off for you, buddy. You've seen that in so many of these ones, and the same can be said for Tayson here as well. Big 130 shot is nice. Unfortunately, Mustache is in here to join in on the action. I'm sure he'd love to. But again, it's Tayson. He's the best, isn't he? So I'm sure he can handle it all on his own. The question will be, Going to be able to find more hills. Luckily, there are 2 floppers there that you can use.
It's a huge find. Maybe small, maybe floppers. But for Tayson and his survival, that is a huge find. You see him not instantly popping that second flopper. Trying to get the most effective, optimized amount of HP out of that one as he tries to disengage. Got to imagine, at the very minimum, grab Merstash's reboot card as he tries to go to the nearest reboot van. A little bit of a replay to see how this one even began. Merstash getting a little bit ahead of himself and hits its own box. Panache with the first shot, 185, making it that much easier for Maker to get the knock. They finally cleaned that one up. And here's Tayson just fighting back, tooth and nail. Maker goes down. And now ends up in a 1v1 situation.
And look, the team that won the heal-off last game, Malabuka and Thomas, you've got to think, the chances of them winning a heal-off in this game, probably not there. Deep in the zone, taking Storm 6 unnecessarily. Well, maybe not unnecessarily. They've been forced into this position, you'd think. Either way, they can recover from this game and salvage something. They're just going to have to play for elims, really, you'd think.
Got to imagine the same thing for Merstash and Tayson. For them, their game time or pizza party begins very, very early this time around. So even though we're talking about the possibility heal off going right out the window for some of these teams, hey, I've definitely seen stranger things happen, especially if you're able to take out the right players at the right time. But only time will tell if that's going to be a possibility. And on over to the team Miniminer was talking about moments ago. From the capture point to the southern portion of the map, trying to go ahead and rotate towards the slower side of the zone. They at least have 6 splashes on the back of Mr. Savage. Got to be something similar on Vidil as well. Trying to set themselves up. You got to imagine they didn't take too much actual storm damage as Mr. Savage takes a couple tags towards the side. For them, they have multiple win conditions in this game, but the more prominent one is going to be that heal off towards the end.
Yeah, and I think many people will be very, very happy about how they're doing. The Savage fans will be rising. The Vidil fans will be celebrating.
Hey, look what I found. That's just my thought process. And Jerky picks up.
Tayson got picked up in the feed as well, so that's going to be tough there for the reigning champs in this one.
Nash and Tayson, though, trying to fire back. Taking down Robob in the feed. Twee and Jalen having a much better time. This one, they already got that overclocked pulse rifles. They have highest elevation in the sky when it comes to the Rift Island. You can kind of look around literally almost all over the map and try to pop shots with the red eye. That's what you see Jalen doing, boxed up at the edge of that Rift Island. Tayson's down. Merstash, you saw him pick up at least 1 elimination. You can see him try to grab Tayson's car, but he gets tagged, unable to really utilize multiple charges of that ODM gear to try to close the distance and get out of the zone as fast as possible. But since he has to wait for it to kind of charge up yet again, he's going to go ahead and pop that big pot before he sets his show on road once more.
Roles reversed.
Okay.
Tayson had to do the solo job. Now it's up to Merstash. When are we going to get a prolonged period of time with both of these two together again in this game? Will it even happen with Merstash taking so much damage? Does have the chug splashes, but he would have wanted to save them for later down the line. And now he's just making space because he knows Stompy's going to be on the offensive and JJ2's on the other side as well. This is going to be a very tough fight for Merstash to win. They have plenty of heals to be able to stay in Storm and fight him, but actually opting to move away, and moving away might have costed them because Merstash, with that pistol in hand, is so dangerous.
Instead of them now being able to sit comfortably on the edge of zone, they have to heal, and Thomas and Malabuka are out in the feed. Defending champions go down, and the speed bump in their road gets hit. Stompy and JJ2 trying to have a little bit more smooth sailing for themselves, but JJ taking a little bit too much damage, no shield, which is why you see Stompy making sure to kind of spread the love, give him the extra slurp juice so he can get his shields and HP back on up. They know Merstash is still there, popping the splashes, and every time a splash pops, they know he's weak, and they go in. Send Merstash back on out to the lobby, trying to add more to their total.
Nicely done. Merstash tried his best, but his best was not enough under the circumstances. Juriki will be in a similar predicament if he can't get a refresh in time, and even though he does, he gets swept up For a second, I thought he was going to be able to hold on, but couldn't quite do it. Chu in a very similar situation now as well. Will he survive, or will Romic be the lead to his demise?
At least he has the med miss. Back to his own. Do I hear a reboot band going off? As I listen carefully, at least somebody's trying something cheeky on in the distance. Yep, it is going to be towards the gas station on the bridge. Not too far away from where Ju is currently positioned. That's Robab getting a second chance at life thanks to Wax. That's a team that you don't want to give another opportunity to in a game that's already this far close to the end.
But will they really be able to get back into this game? Once they get towards the zone, they're going to be here in such a congested side of the zone. There'll be so many players waiting for them. They'll know that these guys are scuffed, and they'll just hold and hold and hold until Robab and Wax have nothing less to hold on to.
You can really see in the leaderboard right there, second and third place are down and out. So either Mr. Savage and Verdeel are going to extend their lead even farther, or Smokey, Juice Fishy, Pixie, and Della are going to have more of a fighting chance to reach to the top of that leaderboard.
I think both things are true.
Yep.
And both things can be true, right? For all these teams. I wonder how Mr. Savage and Verdeel are doing, because they weren't looking too hot when we last saw them in this game. Della and Pixie, though, are looking very nice. 756 above.
But how you get Storm Surge? How did they get 756 above? So many other teams in the lobby are fighting for that surge. Mini Miner, how are some of these teams gathering that surge to have a much safer rotation towards the end game?
That is a great question, Jacob. Now I have the answer. Jalen and Twine managed to claim the Rift Island. And of course, we can see them building all the way up on top to get some surge and the high ground over the rest of the lobby. Of course, they do have these overclocked pulse rifles as well, so they can rain down fire, and we can see it in action right now.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm sensing a bit of biasness here from Mini Miner. Yeah, every opportunity he gets to wax lyrical about Jalen, he seems to, I don't know. Someone needs to, you know, check what's going on there.
We're going to see Mini Miner and Jalen on stream later on today. Nah, jokes aside, honestly. I love a little bit of, I wouldn't call it a Cinderella story, but an underdog story. That's what I love when all over Fortnite, doesn't matter the region that you're playing, giving anybody a chance to change their lives through FNCS, through these major competitions.
Look, Mini Miner's boy Jalen getting an elim in the feed, so look, he's waxing lyrical about them, but rightfully so. They've been performing so well in this game so far. And they have the loot to deliver a top-class finish to this one. Robab and Wax weren't quite able to survive. We asked that question after they rebooted. Unfortunately, it was answered very quickly. Fiber and Artist, the team that took down Queasy and Veno, will they be able to deliver a good game given the opportunity? It's not very often you beat those two off spawn twice in a row.
Let's say this, not once but twice. Outdropped. It wasn't they just beat him in a prolonged fight either. They were actually just outdropped altogether. Karmi trying to do it by himself. Not only is he below when it comes to Storm Surge, taking so much damage to the zone, and luckily for him, there's a little stand with fruits and vegetables towards the outskirts. He's going to try to munch on a couple of those. And I guess my mom was right. Fruits and vegetables really do make you big and strong.
I don't know about the big part for you, Jacob, but nevertheless, Karmi is still in this one.
Joke's on you. I didn't eat the vegetables.
Of course not. Look, Vanyak isn't alive, and we usually associate the big solo clutches with Vanyak. So this is Karmi's chance to show that he isn't just being carried in this team. He can carry his load when needed. But it will be hard because he's only down to wood, and there is a team right above him, and it's the top dogs of the lobby right now, Jalen and Tweet, who have been doing a lot of work. And the big thing is, with those pulse rifles, wood might as well be nothing. Wood is as good as paper when it comes to pulse rifles and breaking into boxes. So Karmi will be hoping that they just leave him alone.
Wood is like going out in negative 30-degree weather with nothing but a hoodie. When you're inside, it makes you feel like you're going to be warm, but when you finally get out into the playing field, it's Absolutely nothing. Axe Force and Vortexers. 91 builds on Axe Force. So plenty of material for them to work with, as they got a little bit of journey to get to the zone. But for them, there's not too many teams that are nearby, not too many teams congested that close. So they time it perfectly right. They can get there rather quick and try to gatekeep everyone else towards the outside of the lobby, as Vortexers just trying to go ahead and use those chug splashes, get them as close to 200 effective shield and HP, knowing how dangerous the rotation could possibly be.
Pixie and Della, who were looking so good earlier, for a moment having to just regroup and use a bunch of those chug splashes to get them back into this game. We might not see them play for height the way they have at their very, very best, but that doesn't mean that they will be quiet in this game. They will still make a bunch of noise. 900 above, Surge is not a problem. They don't have to worry about that. They do have to worry about starting to maybe pick up some refreshes, look to get their heals back that they just had to use, and top up on their materials as well so that they can tarp out the rest of this game.
Alvi and Swids, 203 above the damage threshold. Not too far of a rotation for them. So they're going to have the safety of the high ground and the comfortability. Just kind of gather all this information, put shots when they want. With only 29 medium bullets left in Alvi's Red Eye Assault Rifle. You can see why he's not pressuring people from above. Mr. Savage, just a couple of layers below, losing Vidil along the way. 43 below the damage threshold. Somebody went down, allowing them to go 188 above, giving Mr. Savage some comfortability. You can see how he's so far spread out from the rest of the lobby as well.
Yeah, you saw Artist was the one that actually got the final credit onto Vidil, man. These guys are taking out all the top dogs in this lobby. But Mr. Savage is a lone wolf, and he's done that plenty of time. One of the best solo players in the history of this game. And now, maybe a chance to show us exactly why the Norwegian is considered that. Shamoki and Juice Fishy, they're back in this game. They're back trying to show us what they can do. Axe Force and Vortexers, who have climbed through the standings today, also have a shot at this one.
295 above the damage threshold. As I say it, they drop 220 damage. Somebody is putting in work right now, 11. And for Vortexers and Axe Force, it puts them really on notice that we have to start being proactive. We have to start getting active. We have to start getting the damage that we need. Otherwise, you might fall behind. For Vortex and Japco, 10 above is all they're going to be able to really capture for now as they use the ODM gears to go around the zone, taking some damage, but that way they can get to the front side and have a little bit more safety on their rotation.
Yeah, their position is a lot much better off for it. Trexa and Kiduo, they're also in the front side of the zone, but both players a bit separated there. Not together, they need to get back to each other. Mr. Savage, even as a solo, knows he needs to be aggressive down on Surge. Knows he can't just sit there and be taken out by the rest of the lobby. And so he's going to try and make a play. He's landed on that player's wall, needs to be careful, needs to drop back a bit. But he's looking at the backside. He knows there's going to be players coming, but he doesn't see the ones that he turned his back away from, and that will be the end of his run. But there's still more to fight for. Juice Fishy, Shamoki, they're still alive as a duo, and they're causing problems, Jacob.
Yeah, they're one of the teams that we've seen make it to the end of game number one, skyrocket to the top of that leaderboard. Now it's time for them to kind of play consistent, mimic that style of play as Della and Pixie under siege, under attack. ODM gear, melee attacks really causing destruction to the builds, forcing them on the back foot. Somebody's going to get into the box, putting a huge shot onto Della. Him and Pixie reunite yet again. The chemistry between these two is absolutely fantastic to watch.
It was Artist and Fire, bro, that kept on knocking on the door. They tried to slam it down, push it away, but they couldn't. They just had to slip away. But the game continues. You can see Alvi up on height. They get chopped, and so they need to reconnect. They need to stay up there. Right now, that's their best shot of winning this game. Juice Fishy, Shamoki, they're still moving though. They're still alive in this one, but they're gonna have to start using some of their heals.
Yeah, with how quick the zone is moving, there's not too many opportunities to put focus onto the high ground. Slurp Juice, he's able to get one back-to-back at that. He's going to clean up all this loot, the siphon, the refresh, absolutely needed in the moment like this. 5 eliminations that continue to push forward. Pixie and Della doing the same thing, but congested towards the low ground. That's where it gets dangerous. Into our top 10 we go as they're going above, changing layers. Instead of fighting fire with fire, they're playing the smart and the long game.
Yeah, but they need to maybe think about claiming low. That's where the eliminations are going to be. They need to start claiming space. Pixie and Grippe need to start hitting shots, but they can't. Curb, default, really using them shotguns, putting it to work. But time is ticking, and they can't keep up. Alvi has to drop down now. Swizz also dropping down. Nobody really looking to go for heal off. Everybody right now just looking to fight with their shotguns. It's back to what we're typically used to seeing. Skibby is still alive. Juice Fishy, though, in the back of the zone, is eventually going to fall. And so it's Swizz all the way up above, now being forced all the way down.
He has no heals, though. Into our top three. He's the last one alive for his team. He's trying to go and fight for it at the very end. He doesn't get nothing. And it's Shamoki and Juice Fishy yet again. 2 of our 4 games were won by this team, coming in from another region and winning by heal-off.
Look, we've been saying they've come in from another region, but they have made EU their home. I don't consider them an Asia duo anymore. They are well and entrenched within EU. They play to the very best of their abilities, and that's why they win games here again. 2 now on the day. Really nicely done. Even when everything didn't look in their favor, they stuck together as a duo, and they hit the crucial shots. You can see here, what a shot that was. That's so difficult. And on to Jalen, the lobby boss nonetheless. Really nicely done from this duo.
Getting a siphon this late in the game kind of counts as an extra heal in the inventory. The extra 50 HP that they're able to get, especially in a moment like this, especially for Juice Fishy. He's the one going down and causing destruction for everybody trying to play heal off. That is back-to-back wins. I say back-to-back, but games 1 and game 4 won by these guys doing that exact strategy. They have their roles laid out perfectly.
Look, I like what I'm seeing from this team. They've come to Major 2 and they are showing up big. When a lot of our top teams weren't quite able to hit the mark in that game, these guys stepped up, and that's going to do wonders for them in the standings. Look, we have a couple more games left, but who better to break it all down than the analysts?
Thank you guys so much. Want to take a moment here to introduce SBG, our special guest hanging out with us, our analyst extraordinaire. Welcome to the broadcast. Hey, Shamoki got himself another victory royale there. Of course, it did happen with the heal off, but this feels a little more traditional Fortnite than we're used to seeing.
Yeah, dude was fragging right there. Little combination team play. You have the one teammate just absolutely popping off there in the end game. Then you have the other teammate playing a little safer, keeping all the heals in your back pocket just in case he can't frag that hard.
Yeah, look, Slurp Juice Fishy was not even having to utilize that legendary Slurp Juice. He was just slurping up everybody else's health with the refreshes, and I think that it was just an excellent job of weaving in between all of those build cracks wherever possible to connect those shots, because again, aim is everything when it comes to closing out.
Yeah, and it feels like a lot of these duos are trying to figure out a similar strategy, right? A lot of them seem to be focusing more on this kind of heal-off meta, but others are saying, I don't want that anymore. I want to be able to push and be as aggressive as possible. It's kind of what we talked about before this last game. SPG, do you feel like maybe some of these duos are looking to implement more aggression? Do you think maybe there's something else they're looking to do?
I think certain duos are going to be comfortable playing that aggressive style, but ultimately, not every team's built like that. Not every team can go get 8 elims in this lobby. And when you see Juice Fishy pop off like that and just literally use all these other players for heals, he doesn't need any heals himself, gives them all to Shamoki. That's a great play right there.
And this also might have been one of the most closely knit finishes that we've seen so far on the day. So I really love the fact that they were just playing off of each other so well throughout their box movements in order to capitalize on every single one of those elims they were managing to find.
Yeah, their pizza seems to have some kind of special ingredient, right? There's a little bit of extra spice on that because 2 victory royales on the day, especially a little over halfway through, does look pretty good. Let's take a look at our standings. How are things shaking out for these duos so far? With that, they now jump into first place, right? They're starting to look, like I kind of talked about, more traditional Fortnite. This is what we're used to seeing. Eliminations, consistency, and placement. And now they're at the top.
It's no surprise to me, though. You get 2 victory royales, you're in first place, and by a decent margin. 20 points is no small feat, and we're in the back half of this tournament now, so these two have set themselves up really nicely for the rest of this tournament.
I think they also just did an excellent job capitalizing on the fact that we saw our top 2 contenders with Queasy and Veno, Savage and Vidil going down relatively early. So Surf Juicy, they were able to take full advantage of it. But again, still a pretty strong showing, I think, from Savage and Vidil, considering that Savage was left in that solo situation.
Yeah, and talking about Savage, I mean, we've seen these two absolutely play perfectly through these games, and it's not something that they've exactly done leading up to this. Now showing whatever practice they've put in over the past couple of weeks, the VOD reviews, it's all come into play, and it's working so nicely for them because, I mean, second place, you're behind a team that's won 2 games, and They haven't even won one yet, but it doesn't matter.
And you have to consider that out of the 4 matches that have occurred so far, half of them you see Savage and Vidil not really having much heals to work with in the first place. So I think the fact that they're still managing to hold on to that top 2 threshold just kind of indicates that they're doing a great job at just managing their placements overall.
Looks so good and continues to look good. Now, of course, why don't we take a moment? Let's talk about Storm Surge. Okay, the dreaded Storm Surge. Let's discuss how these duos may be looking to deal with this, especially remember the brand new meta. We're trying to find our ways to make sure this doesn't affect us as a duo. So what are we seeing?
Well, for starters, we're actually witnessing, I think, a great usage out of these teams because one team in particular really took full advantage of their positioning in Frenzy Fields, and Airtrap, alongside of his duo, were really just micromanaging everyone that was trying to funnel in a little bit late from Mega City.
And it's that game you're playing of, do I want to get center zone or do I want to play edge? And we see there's just a wave of teams coming through. They know they can play edge, and they're just going to sit there, farm all these tags, because if you don't get enough damage early, you're going to run into problems where every single zone, then you have to work to continue to get that damage.
And then every single time, it just set them up so nicely because they had the height to utilize the whole way through. They also had the red eyes, which are definitely going to help you finding the accuracy for those Storm Surge tags. And I think overall, they kind of just understood that they had ample time to work with here.
Everyone has to have that strat, and we saw it from them. This is clearly their strat. Play edge when zone pulls to the west, knowing teams have to funnel into you. Hey, it's not going to pull that way every time, but when it works, it works.
Yeah, again, it's just all about adapting, right? That's what Fortnite's all about. How do we take all the tools in our toolbox and turn this into a victory out or a high placement? We do have a little bit, before this next game. I kind of want to talk to you, SBG. You've been watching. What are your expectations kind of going in? Are there any trends you're seeing? Not heal off, but maybe how looking to combat that or even other strategies?
I think that high ground play we've seen work pretty consistently. The sky base, you've mentioned it before, just going up there and looking to play passively. You don't really need to do too much while you're up there, but you're not going to get punished when you do get chopped out, so you don't really have anything to lose. So I'm surprised we're not seeing more teams try and go for that play, because most of those teams are on a single build and really easily chopped out.
Absolutely wild. Game 5 is here, and it is just about time to get into all of the action once again. So everybody grab a kinetic blade, grab some popcorn, find your seats. 2 more games. How does this unfold? Let's find out.
This is it. This is what we came for. The top of the leaderboards is claimed by Shamoki and Juice Fishy, and they've done it by winning 2 victory royales out of only 4 games.
Yeah, they've been one of the best teams to watch throughout today's games, and I think there's no surprise why they sit currently in first place. Why they've been so impressive throughout the past couple of seasons we've gotten the chance to watch them. I'm very impressed, but look, there are still 2 more games where big shakeups can certainly happen.
Yeah, and I'm going to be looking over toward Kenjutsu's crossing to see if Queasy and Vino can finally make something happen. Times they weren't just beat, they were outdropped and outplayed.
What's going on with the drop map? They got to fix things up, and the time to do that is now. Can they improve off spawn? Can they finally just survive? Who would have thought they would be losing off spawn the way they have? But a chance now to make amends is here in game 5. And Kenjutsu will be one of the last places where people get the chance to drop, so I'm sure it'll take a while for them to actually land. Maybe a couple of seconds. You can see them probably just jumping out just about there.
Let's say this is Naked with Dan. Amos. Hillian over towards this house. Instead of a straight 50-50, it's to get all the loot, whether it's a floor loot or a chest. Dan's going to be the first player down in this game overall, forcing Neku on the back foot. Luckily for them, Amos didn't get that kinetic blade straight off the rip, so he's going to have some chance to try to run, create some separation, create some distance between him and his counterparts, but that's not going to be a possibility.
I'm not going to lie. I think I just saw Thomas HD go down in the feed, yeah. To Ziandi. Malibuka down as well. That's over at the racetrack, I believe, Ziandi. And oops.
Queasy, Vino, are they going to switch it up? And they have this time, lasting just a little bit longer off spawn. Queasy.
Sorry, everybody. Jacob's actually colorblind. It's epic. It's not legendary. Legendary's the gold one. I wish you could see the smile on Jacob's face. Vino winning off spawn here against Viper and Artist. Finally making amends for what went wrong.
You know what I think it is?
What is it?
'Cause I think of Epic. I think of Epic Games. I think of all they've done. So many great things. So you would imagine that would be the gold rarity. But you know, my boy Biscuit's probably watching this right now, making those same notes, letting him know, okay, he said it at least twice right now. We're gonna have a talk after this game.
Look, they're not going to name a POI after you, mate. You can calm down. Either way, Shmeki and Gabix over at Lonely Labs, they've been contested all throughout the day. And here, after seeing them with 2 limbs, I think we know what just happened. Yep, picked up the win over towards Lonely Labs or Spawn, which is very, very nice for their chances. And they did it quite quickly, whereas in some of the previous games, it took them a while. Mustache and Tayson over towards the north side of Slappy.
Over 100 points outside of first place. For them, they need a huge effort here in the final couple games to make up for that lost time. Thomas just immediately, along with Malibuka, gets wiped off right out of the gates. Doesn't even really get a chance to fight back. One of the teams in our top position on the leaderboard as well, gonna go down, which kind of opens it up for anybody else outside of the top 10.
There are spots up for grabs. At the end of the day, right, you want to finish as high up as you can, as all these players are playing for series points. And so, it doesn't matter where you currently sit, you just need to finish the day higher than where you are now. Which is, I guess, a very obvious thing, but just something to keep in mind when you see players making certain decisions, making all-in plays, Nagi and Itchy. They actually pick up Albi. And this is a duo that was very, very deep in that last game, almost winning it. So to see them go down so early is not ideal whatsoever. Albi getting taken out. Will his duo be able to make amends, get revenge? Robab and Wox in the midst of a fight. Something I feel like I've said so many times over the past couple months.
Big shots being fired as they go up, out, and around these builds. Try to keep some form of advantage here in this fight. Jaco, Skydoon just taking 2 different angles as well, making it that much harder for Wox to try to survive. We did see Robab go down, so he is a solo, trying to make magic happen. And luckily for him, he gets help of 3rd parties, 4th parties, beginning to shoot shots and get their own tags for Storm Surge, which is obviously forcing Skydoon and Shaco back down, which is allowing Wox a little bit more freedom and flexibility to maneuver around. His decision with that flexibility is try to clean up the damage that somebody else put on his opponents.
Wox is no stranger to hitting big shots. But he'll have to hit a massive one. You can see it. Robab is dropping loot to him to be able to use in this fight. I doubt he'll be able to get a revival. They let him have it. I'd be very, very surprised. But he is maybe actually gonna get it off. They've not really applied much pressure. Maybe a couple seconds away. And yeah, he's able to pick Robab up. And so now we're 2v2 once again. And I'm sure he'll be feeling very confident. Wox dropping down to try hit a shot. The window edit won't find anything, but a repeat. Doors now whipping out. Ju and Ryzen have walked on in, and Skydoon is going to fall as a result of it.
What Robab and Wox thought was a miracle turns out to be a nightmare. They even get their eliminations stolen away altogether.
Wow.
Ryzen and Ju get both of those and more as they take down Wox as well. The only one they didn't get went on over to Shaco's, who got sent back to the lobby. So at least he got some points in this game. At least he progressed just a little bit, which is all you can really ask for, because a lot of these teams, what are they fighting for? They're fighting for those series points and their placement on the series board, leaderboard for the next 3 weeks. These teams will be fighting through different rounds of FNCS to make the finals. Where you place at the end of each week's finals, you get granted those series points.
And so for the players who didn't quite make it to this round, if maybe your favorite duo didn't make it here, there is still hope for them if they can rack up the series points in the next couple of weeks. And qualifiers, so there are still 2 other qualifiers that will give them that chance. And maybe if they don't quite get enough to qualify for the finals, there will also be Surge Week that they can potentially qualify for and play in.
These fights are so tricky over towards Mega City. I feel like it's very, very similar to Rave Cave when you're fighting, to where if you don't actually know the terrain and you're trying to traverse in and out of these buildings of Mega City, you can easily get caught off guard versus a team that knows the in and outs, all the nooks, all the crannies. So playing careful against teams towards Mega City. Tough. Grip A just lands a shot from above onto Ref's guard, giving away his position. As he's trying to continue on that damage, doesn't want to let these heals and the damage go to waste. 2 pieces going under his control. Make it 3 in a row as he continues to try to close the distance between Ref's guard, Hell's Fire, and himself. His teammate even getting that additional angle. You see they reunited for a quick second as they thought they were going to get pushed. Uh-oh. Backed up just a little bit. Great defensive shots to try to slow down their opponent. They're using that moment as a way to try to escape, and they're using other players closing in on the same distance to try to get out, but it's User who actually takes down Hellfire trying to escape.
Storm's coming in, so that isn't really going to phase them. It being a low tick, and they are very close to being able to get in safely. For both of these teams, everyone just wants to get the one up over each other. Rescott patiently waiting for somebody to waltz through that door and make that mistake. They might be waiting for a long time. It doesn't look like Grip and Flixie are gonna look to go in that direction. To get in a different side, move down south a bit here.
I wonder who got most of the loot from Mega City. So many people probably going to fight for those same scraps as well. A lot of open slots in the inventory, a lot of health going to be needed. So great place to try to pick those up, or honestly the rest of Mega City altogether. One of the biggest POIs we've seen in all of Fortnite. As Minnie's boy right here, Jalen and Tweet, trying to have a better performance.
I love how we've just designated Jalen as Minnie's boy.
That's his man's right now. They're gonna play right after this, right when they get back.
Hey, look, he's got the nice little logo up of his Twitch channel as well.
He looks like he has a nice studio altogether. You see those sound foam panels.
It's got a nice setup. A lot of bright lights though. Hopefully they don't distract him from the task at hand, which will be to try and get some search and maybe potentially fight for this cash that he sees there. Skivvy and Bacon, that might be in the way though, so could be something hard to do. Mustache and Tayson based up, and they're not the highest base, so they have to be careful, right? Mustache is blocking his back while he takes shots here onto whoever that is, and a couple of headshots being connected as well. A decent trade for Mustache.
I feel like I didn't even see him.
Yeah, that's why they're the best players in the world. They've got some of the best aim in all of gaming. But there is a harder angle for Mustache to see, since that player is on the higher elevation, right? Whenever you're the player